And we live. Yeah, we're live.
Yeah.
We've made it. Episode 17.
I had some kids yesterday saying ching chong, ching chong, and they were saying they were speaking Chinese.
Where were these kids? Like, were they just like on the side? Like, you just were walking and they.
No, they were in a cafeteria eating lunch.
Is this because I know you've been taking actually like real Chinese. You've actually been learning Chinese and you've
Hmm.
been learning Chinese medicine. Did like it come up in conversation and they just started like
No, they were doing it. They had no idea.
they had no idea. Dang.
Yeah.
You just like
And then,
overheard them.
no, they told me. They said, "Look, we know how to speak Chinese."
You know how
And they
to,
were like that, and I was like, "You know what? That's not appropriate."
yeah,
And they were like,
that's
"Why? Why isn't it appropriate?" Because they were trying to convince me, and they were third graders. They start to mess with adults at that age,
yeah.
and they're like, "No, they were really trying to speak Chinese," and obviously they're not.
Yeah.
But they have to learn how to lie. That's an important part of being an adult. Um,
Yeah.
so I was like, "That's not appropriate because you don't know how to speak Chinese," and if you were actually trying, that would be okay. But it's like making fun, and it's not appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Just
Yeah.
that's just insane that like I guess at that age, I guess there's no like social awareness. So not only like do they not know that what they're doing is disrespectful, but they're also like to say that to like just anyone who you don't know. Only a third grader.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
there's some like weird adult out there that's just like walking around
And
just talking to people and throwing out like fake Chinese.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I was doing this thing where it was in the cafeteria, and there's usually like this repeated thing where there's not enough adults there, and so that the kids kind of go crazy and get super loud. And by the end, there's like chocolate milk and ketchup and hot dog fragments like all over the table, and then the adults have to clean it up. And like that's bullshit. Like you just clean your table, right? Because you made it dirty.
Yeah. I remember that
So I
was a
instituted
basic
it.
thing back in school. Like maybe that's more so Montessori, but I mean still I assume that's like a pretty basic premise of like you clean up after yourself. It's your table. You clean it.
Well, not when there's not enough adults there,
Yeah.
because there's a problem in this country regarding education. But aside from the point, I was instituting this thing where I elected somebody from each table to be the arbiter of the table. Um, in some cases, I was electing two officials, and I was making sure that the tables would be spotless. And I instituted this through grade kindergarten. Actually, no, first grade through fifth grade. And I only ran into problems with the fifth grade table. All the other grades were compliant and actually was wanting responsibilities. The fifth graders, they they did not listen. they they basically just said "fuck you," and then they got up in my face.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't say "fuck you," but they were basically like, "I'm not doing it."
Damn. Wait, just to preface here too. I don't know the full backstory. Are you starting to teach again? Are you like
I work at an after school program. I'm a temp, so I go to schools in the area, and I work in their after school programs.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Damn. See, that's so insane. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like that. Like there hits a certain age once kids just kind of become like really stubborn. And that probably is about fifth grade when there's like the most resistance to like any kind of authority.
Yeah, but they respond to very firm voices. So I was talking to this kid. I picked the kid, the loudest kid at the table, and I was like, "Okay, you're responsible for the cleaning." And he's like, "No, I'm not gonna do that." I was like, "Yeah, you are." I said, "Yeah, you are. If you get up and the table's not clean, I'm gonna come find you in line, and we're gonna wait there until the table is clean. You don't have to clean it yourself, but you can ask your friends to help if they made the mess." He said no, but he was still considering it because later on when he got up to get food, he walked by me and he was like arguing with me, like, why does he have to do this, right? Um, but then like once they get their food, they're supposed to sit back down, but he kept like coming up to talk to me. And I was like, sit down, and like he didn't, and then I had to go like, sit down. And then he did, right?
Yeah. Good.
But
You gotta show some authority. I mean, like honestly, it's the only way.
but I don't like doing that. I like doing spotless, and then they go, okay, and then they do start doing this too, and then I pretend like to be an inspector, and I crouch down and I look at the table, and then I like if there's a tiny little speck, I point at it, and then they like oh, like I almost, and then I give them a 9.5 out of 10 rating.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's how it should be, but sometimes you get the resistance, the ones that have resistance, you know?
And then to the other one, that was so there was two fifth grade tables. To the other one, I was like, okay, you're gonna clean up the table, and then he said okay at first, but then he changed his mind. He said, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And he literally started when I was talking to him, he literally started running away from me.
Oh my god,
Like this
this
it
sounds
was the
like
cleanup time.
this was a fifth grader too, right? This sounds like what I used to teach. It was like primary. And
Yeah,
those kids
kindergartners.
were like so young that they would run away from you if they didn't want to like fall. Like you'd have to go and find them and like hold their hand basically. Cause they would run away if you told them something and they were like, no, they'd run. This guy's in fifth grade and he's running away and he's running away.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
crazy.
he's running away, and I'm following him. Not at a rushed pace, but I'm tracking him down.
Yeah, you can't run.
And
You can't run.
by the end of it, I was like, if you don't learn to clean up after yourself, you're gonna have a problem being a functional and responsible member of society when you grow up, and you're gonna have a serious problem.
Yeah. Did he at least did he take that at least seriously? I mean, it's easier because you
He
can
didn't say anything else after that.
good. I feel like at that age you can like there's a benefit and there's also like a huge disadvantage when you're trying to like instruct somebody. They have a little bit more like mental competence to where they can understand more complex things, but at the same time they're also like they're willing to like they have more intent to like resist any sort of like direction or anyone who's trying to tell them to do something versus a kid is more likely to like comply, but you can't really explain to them. You have to explain to them what they're doing wrong in like the simplest of terms.
Yeah, and you know, I did my best while I was still kind of angry when he said this, but when he started running away from me, but that's the truth. A lot of them are misinformed about what they're why they're even in school and what the purpose of education is. Most of them just say something about money, right? And then some of them say they're required by the state of California to be in school, which is interesting, which I didn't know was the case, but they're required to go to school, which is kind of cool. But yeah, dude, they're not telling kids why they're in school, and that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, it is. I yeah, especially I mean at that age, there's kind of like an understanding. I think they uh I think there's a certain age once you know that like they're not really teaching you everything that you might need after you graduate.
But
I
I'm
don't know if
saying they
that's
don't know why they don't know why they show up to that building repeatedly. They're not understanding why they show up.
yeah.
Not that the education is lacking, but like they misunderstand the foundational like reason why you show up to a school.
You know, what's crazy is I feel like I still don't understand um I still don't understand that. And I'm going to college getting my degree, and I've been in school for coming up to my 4th year cuz I graduate this year. So pretty much SRA, but SRA was different, I feel like. But anyways, I've been in school now for a long time, and even I still don't know. I'm coming up to graduation, and I don't know. I don't even know that question.
Dude, come on. You know this.
I mean, they don't really like. I what I would say is that
You
like it's
you
just to
know.
get this piece of paper that helps you like get a job. But even the things that you learn, people tell you, oh well, half of that won't even matter anyways, and it's like okay.
Okay, so you can do better than that.
I don't know.
Well, do you
I
know why like somebody goes to elementary school?
Well, yeah, of course. There's like fundamentals that like you like if someone didn't go to elementary school, like that would be even high school. I mean, all these things that would be like detrimental. However, I mean beyond that, beyond like learning like, how to write, learning certain logical skills, learning how to read, learning like learning these like subtext of things that you need to know. Beyond that, then
Okay,
it's
so
like there's things that are interesting. I'm not saying I haven't taken something away from my education, but when someone would ask me what's the purpose, I would say I don't know. There's like some things you can apply it to, and other things that really like nobody shows you what you're supposed to apply it to.
okay. So I'm talking about this is like the theory of education, right? This isn't like the practical application. So there's problems with the education system as I said before, but the purpose or the intent of educational institutions and individuals who come to those institutions, like the purpose to me is to allow people to become functional, responsible members of society.
I don't know if that
Okay.
happens though.
So that's the intent. So we're showing up to these places so people can learn stuff, right? And like the very, very low end of this is functioning members of society are people that work for other people, right? That's the majority of the way that it's set up right now. So you're saying it's for the piece of paper, but the piece of paper is like integrated into the legal system of this country, right? So you're still going to these institutions to become a functional member of society. It just has like this very, very reduced meaning and purpose for the individual at this moment. But that doesn't mean that it has to be that way. But I believe the foundation is still intact of being functional member of society.
I do agree. I think even like the more you go back further into like education, like to the lower levels, at the farther back you go, the more the more that's like at the core of it. I feel like. I feel like as you advance naturally, that starts to become like a looser premise. And I'm gonna say this.
Where
I
does it happen?
I think it doesn't happen at like a certain point. It just slowly the focus on that becomes less of a core tenet as you leave like elementary school, progress into middle school, high school.
Dude, high school is like where you learn to write papers and stuff.
Yeah,
That's like
I would say that's
developing the
important.
ability to critically think. That's so important.
Yeah, I would say though, like sometimes the application is like very. here's writing a paper, here's how you do it, and that's valuable, but there's no like application to the outside, or there's no like project that like invites you to take part in something that would require literary analysis alongside something that exists within the real
Yeah,
world.
yeah, it does. Literary analysis is reading emails and responding to emails
That's part
and
of it too.
reading documents.
There's little bits of that, but I think like the application is sometimes it's just practice and there is not as much application. Like of course the practice is still important, but there's not like an equal emphasis on application. Like applying
Yeah,
it to
okay.
things.
Yeah, so yeah, again, this is a problem with it being carried out, but I think ultimately like the schools, like one of the ways you be a functional member of society is to have some sort of like purpose or sort of function that you carry out in the world. Like you're a bank teller or like you drive a bus, right? You do something that other people can't do, and you have a specific task to do, and you complete it. But also another part of society is having like people that you individuals that are like you in some ways and different than you in some ways, and like there's this social relationship aspect to life, and these institutions are also the breeding grounds for a lot of close relationships for people. And when they do this sort of like just for practice kind of thing, you're socializing people to the same a cultural material, and so like your mind starts to work the same way as other people's in that institution, and like you're through the challenge of repeatedly showing up, you are becoming bonded with these people, right? And so it's creating functional members of society because you need relationships to survive. So it's bringing people together outside of the education.
I get that, but I was going to say this too. I don't feel like a functioning member of society. And I've been going to school for my whole entire life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So someone's not doing their job right if that's what the whole existence. I'm not saying too that like by the way like I clean up. I'm not saying like functional member of society is if I'm going on like stealing things and like just like acting like an absolute nuisance. When you analyze the deeper core of what like a functioning member of society like all existing within the same like kind of like sphere, it almost even sounds like there's like supposed to be some amount of collectivism. And I think that is like advocated for, but it's not really. I think it's the application where it's the problem, because I think a lot of people don't act under this idea of the collective. I think it's fragmented, and I think that I don't think these institutions really help that much in the purposes of collectivizing a group. I think there's a lot of fragmentation, and I think that there's core premises that work, and like of course have to operate the way that they do. And I think without it, we'd be even worse off. But I think what it does do is just enough to piece something that's kind of fragmented into a ball and hold it together in a loose formation, kind of.
Okay, so within the experience of each individual institution, and it seems like you're talking specifically about higher education
I would say
vis-a-vis
so.
college education. So when you enter the institution of college, there are a lot of social elements that change moving from high school to college. High school, a lot of people are living with their parents or guardians. Those people are showing up to class for like 30 or 40 hours a week, right? And then that's getting changed to the whole living situation changed, and then the amount of class time changes, right? So it's not a very smooth transition, but a lot of people try to make um, that transition easier by going to college with people they know or living in dorms and stuff like that. Those bring people together, but also like a lot of like extracurricular activities, like playing sports. You could join like special, like there's like Greek life on campus. Like that's what I did, right? That automatically has the community aspect there. And there's so many other ones. You can get involved in student government. So like, just like you move from like the living at home to like living in, on your own essentially, or in a dorm or some sort of new living situation, a lot of things come off, but it also creates this new freedom where like the school is just providing like the ecosystem. And you're right, it is more fragmented, sort of by design, so that people can create the groups that they would like to um, be in, and find the people that they would like to associate with.
I think that works, but I don't mean just like university education. I'd even extend it into high school. And I don't more so mean like friendships. I think like friendships exist in like, in a pretty fluid state. When I mean like collectivism, I more so mean like the population as a whole. There's kind of like this there's like community like orienting, but not necessarily in like a large scale. It's kind of like it is small clusters of people like forming together. And again, I knew some people up here already, so I kind of like naturally that's kind of the groups that I already knew, kind of I formulated into, and that's how like I kind of branched out. But even then, there's still like this fragmentation that like occurs as a full like within the community as a whole. And I think when like everyone like goes off, there's even this like strange thing where like even networking, like I received this insane email from my department basically trying to talk about how like, oh, there's like this bad, like they're trying to like talk about how for some reason networking isn't working. And they think it's because people have like this bad perception of networking. And they're like, it's not working because you just have a bad perception of it. Usually people think that people get a job. It's like this whole weird video that they posted too, where it's like usually people think it's a back deal in like a coffee shop or something, where this guy kind of chuckles and laughs and exchanges information. But it's much different than that. And it's like, no, the guy who is in Starbucks that you meet isn't going to give you a job, a corporate position at like at a coffee company. If anything, there's like a manager there who's like, okay, do you want to like work as a server? Do you want to like get behind and be a barista? Like, they're not going to like look and be like, wow, you really met someone important in college. Unless you go to Harvard or Stanford or some big institution, then you know someone like his dad probably is some like big fund manager. And so, yeah, sure, maybe you'd get a job on Wall Street or something. But other than that, if you don't know people with connections, there's not going to be a massive linking that happens through networking at a regular institution. So I think there's like this disconnect with how that works. And I think even the university doesn't exactly know completely. Like when you talk to even career counselors, they'll tell you like, well, we don't know how this is going to look, but here's some like data points of what people have done afterwards. And even that data is really sparse, and there's not a whole lot to look through. So you're just left looking at these data points that even they don't know how to interpret. They'll tell you they don't know. And that's what's insane. And it's like, but that's your job, theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's a lot there. So I think, so I mentioned Greek life before, fraternities and sororities. That is like doing networking to the extreme, right? You sign up for that kind of thing. It's like, okay, we're studying like the same kind of thing, like often like business or marketing. We stick together through everything. I'm going to hire you. You're going to hire me, right? It's called mutual assistance. It's one of the tenets I learned. So that's awesome, right? But it's also, you become friends with these people. It also has this very informal aspect. And I think what networking kind of is like, it's like informal, sort of an informal job interview in a certain sense. It's like people want to feel you out outside of the workplace, and they want to like, you hire someone, they have like their whole resume, but you want to work with people that you like will like to be around, in the in-between times between work. So just as it pertains to the networking thing, I think networking is like just very, very informal job interview. And you gotta, if you want to do networking, you kind of have to start playing this character that like is likable.
I just
That's what it is. So
I think it's ridiculous.
yeah, no, okay,
I think it's ridiculous.
but this is where this happens. Okay, so throughout the entire education system, which you can kind of imagine like on a graph, right? Starting down with like uh pre-K, I guess, and then it goes to kindergarten, etc., and then it's branching out, right? So it can goes up to high school, college. You can get a PhD, and you can continue, right? You could go to school for the rest of your life and die and never pay off your student loans. Right? That's one of the coolest things about this education system, right? If you continue to go to the school, they'll let you keep going, and you'll be able to go as far as you want as this diverges into ultimately like the extremes of like what you can learn through the education system. But at any given point throughout here, like down here, like there's economic opportunities, right? And again, it's this reduced version of what I'm talking about, but it's still functioning member of society. Here with like in your 8-year-olds, you could become a child actor prodigy, right? So way down here, there's like this exchange that happens where like it was a two-dimensional graph, but then you hit the certain point and like now you're a child actor and like your whole world expands, right? And then now you're a functioning member of society, right? You're getting paid, you're on this television series or whatever. Okay? It can happen in high school. Like if you were just a crazy high schooler and you really studied computer science and you do a tech startup and it blows up, right? Boom, functioning member of society.
Sometimes
now there's
just an
go ahead.
absolute disaster of a functioning member of society, like a child star that like, goes through exploitation, ends up on drugs,
Mm-hmm.
ends up
But
not a functioning member of society due to the notion of it.
It's providing the opportunity for functioning member. So now there's the high school tech guy, right? So now we've gotten to here, which is college senior, and you're getting this email from your department about networking. And for certain individuals, this is where they will offload off of the graph, right? And they'll start to play the character of somebody who is affable and who shows interest in other people and is comfortable talking about themselves and is interested in talking about general topics that are frequently discussed. They have found their exit through that portal. Okay.
But I'm curious because at this school, I will say this, that person is not getting anywhere. They're going to go up to someone in their department. Oh, I'm a business major too. Oh, I'm a business major too. Oh, this is so great. This is so great. Hey, Jim, 10 years down the line, what are you doing? Well, I'm working at Starbucks, man. Do you want a job as a barista? Oh, man, that's great, but I was kind of looking for something else. Let me call Timmy. Timmy's like, actually, bro, I got this job. It's in corporate America, brother. He's like, what? Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, what is it? Insurance. What? I'm selling insurance. It's commission-based. I mean, some weeks I make nothing. I mean, the rent's coming due. But trust me, man, next month, it's big. I got 5 new clients that I might be able to sign. Just listen back. I'm going to get you a job here. He hangs up the phone. You're like, oh, man, this networking sure is paying off. I'm having such a good time. The other 5 people that I called didn't even pick back up. I guess I lost communication with them somewhere along the way. This is fantastic. What a great, like, I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing that reality. Because no one in that moment of time has those opportunities.
You're saying people are in the position that you're in, people are incapable of using networking to get a job?
I'm just saying that, like, the opportunities that are available to your peers matters as well. Like, you'll know people, but then there's also, like, there's this, like, idea that, like, somehow they get hired and somehow, like, sure, they can, like, advocate for you. But I even have the example of a friend who thought that he could get a job because of where his dad worked. And they straight up refused him, and they said, "I'm sorry, experience isn't enough. Get out of here." And his dad
Mhm.
was like actually doing like he was more in like the manager position, but it didn't matter. It still was like the hiring guy was like, "We're not hiring this person," and so there's limitations to this idea. I just don't like that they're advertising networking to me and saying the cure to all your problems and like in a golden box. And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Oh, and then it turns out no,
Dude,
this is like one thing that can happen. This is like a possibility amongst numerous others of possibilities, and probably I would say 99 out of 100 times you will fail. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to like maybe they don't tell you because otherwise you'd be discouraged. But what a lie to tell someone like just play the lottery a few times and eventually you'll strike it. But to me, it's like sure, I'll try. I'm not going to stop trying. But don't get my hopes up. You know, that's what I don't like. I don't like the getting people's hopes up for it to fall through. I hate that. I don't like it.
hmm So yeah, dude. So totally, you're getting your hopes up based on this email, and you don't like it. But I
Yeah,
feel like,
I don't
but I
like
feel
hearing
like,
about all the bad stuff, and then like I want them to tell me about the stuff that I've heard about from other people, but it feels like they don't talk about that stuff. Like they're painting a different picture than what other people what I'm seeing on the ground. It's almost like if like okay, this is an extreme example, but it's almost like if there was like a war zone and like you were like in the front lines in the ditches, right? Shooting, you were like, "Oh, this is really terrible. I can't believe this." And you called in and you were like, "What are the reports looking like on the ground? We're calling into comms right now. What does it look like?" It's looking like a sunny day outside, cloudy, no chance of rain, all quiet. Looks nice. And you're like, "What? There's like bombs dropping over my head. What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?" "Nope, it looks fine. It's great. There's no war. What are you talking about? There's a war. There's no war. What are you talking about?" It's crazy. It's like everyone else on the ground floor is saying the same thing, and then you're saying something completely different. I find it so weird that like, yeah, I don't know. Not that what they're saying is wrong, but that what they're saying isn't like the as perfect as a picture as it's painted to be.
yeah, okay. So what I'm saying is, this is how the education system works. It provides people with the opportunity to be functional and responsible members of society. It does not do that to every single individual. However, its main function is to provide the opportunity, and those, the best and the brightest of the individuals, have the opportunity through this system, the this continual tract of um, acquiring vast amounts of knowledge and experience, allows people to get into positions of the people that change the world. Okay. And part of being a functional member of society is to do stuff that has never been done before, to provide the opportunities. And so there has to be regional institutions that are honestly subpar to allow for people to have their trajectory go upwards, but also have their trajectory go downwards as it pertains to education. So, like, let's say someone had a very, very poor high school performance, and they had like a 2.4 GPA graduating out of high school. If they like showed some sort of promise, like outside of high school, maybe they could get into a lower tier college, which has less resources, which has lower quality instruction, and which has honestly like a lot of the administration sending out emails like you're talking about. It doesn't give it, it's not as good of an institution, right? There are tiers of levels of institutions, and it's not all based on like clout. Like it's not like all the best institutions are the Ivy Leagues, right? But there's higher and lower level ones. So it's not it it gets a lot more fragmented once you get into the post high school world, because the amount of avenues that you can travel down are vast. And so there's going to be less sort of like consistent thoughts about what's important in those different arenas. So if you were to know beforehand what sort of things you were looking for a school, I wonder if you would maybe have been would have chosen to go to a different school, because the school didn't really provide for you like what you like were imagining for a college that you would attend.
I don't know. Like,
So
this
it
is
could have
like,
been a lack of preparation is basically what I'm saying.
this is supposed to be like a good school for like what I came here to do, like political science. It's supposed to be solid in that. Journalism, it's supposed to be pretty solid in those areas. But still, I think this is a problem that I'm having across the board. However, I will say, some of the things that have like completely like upset me is just like the way that like you communicate with like people who are like staffers. Like, again, I had a problem with like I'm getting an economics minor as well, right? Getting into that program, I finally did. It actually worked out, but I had to spend a whole week sending email after email trying to find somebody. Even the department head didn't know what happened and said, I don't know, I can't help you. I don't know what's happening here. This is what happens when you end up in the wrong class. And I was like, what? And then a professor finally just passed me through and cleared me for this course that I needed. And then another professor said he couldn't. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I think that infrastructure, and I don't know if that's everywhere, is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Then he sends me to talk to my advisor. My advisor says, I don't know. I thought the professor could do it. What? You're an advisor. You're an economic advisor. How? How do you not know this information? You work here. This is your job. Of course I don't yell and I don't say that, but I'm thinking it in my head. I'm like, this is insane. What kind of infrastructure is it here that they have set up? This is supposed to be like a pretty decent school too. It's not supposed to be bad. Like, my community college was better than a full university, a full equipped university, and my community college was better. I guess it's a 4-year now, that college, but regardless, I'm thinking to myself, this is a full professional institution. You call yourself a university, you offer doctorates here. Doctorates degrees, and you're providing, this is what you have? This is crazy. I couldn't believe it. And there's multiple times where I've run into that, where I've asked like a question to either it's a career advisor and an academic advisor, and I can't get my question answered. And I'm like, this is crazy. How? How is it set up this way? I don't know. It's crazy to me.
So when you get into those moments, just a little sidebar, do you notice how you're sitting in your chair?
Am I arched forward?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I wasn't paying attention. No. Maybe I was. I don't know. I guess maybe this is how I would sit up straight.
Well, remember you could see.
Let me see.
And then there was the twist, right?
Yeah, and then the twist. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. But yeah, I guess maybe as I can only imagine as I was typing those emails, if that's like, if I'm probably like this. I'm probably like this typing because I had the stress. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, when I saw that, like, when I got some of those emails back that were like so like disregarding of myself, like you get like the feeling where like thump 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 thump, where you're like, and you're like, oh man, this is making me so mad. I put money into this at this point. I'm paying for this service. Like, this isn't even free. I'm paying for this. And you guys are giving me like, it's like you pay for something and someone just takes a shit on your desk. And you're like, oh my God, I paid for this?
Yeah, but dude, let me tie this back. So, number one, if you're in this position where you can turn, right, and you can actually breathe, and you have your spine, your head on straight, basically, and not, dude, so what this does is, there's this little area where like your skull attaches to your spine, and it's called It's called the Atlanto occipital joint. And what can happen as the skull comes forward is there's like this pinching that can happen, and there's this really really important fluid that like goes around our body. Um, I think it's called blood or something. So there's that, but there's also nerves, which fire impulses to our body, and also cerebral spinal fluid, which nourishes the brain. Okay. All three of these things get impinged when your head is not screwed on straight. Okay. So when the body is not functioning properly, what do you think happens to the mind?
I'm assuming it doesn't function properly either. It's got to like yeah, you're not getting as much probably circulation even up there if it's like cutting off blood and everything else.
Yeah, literally the fluid that flows in your brain, it's not moving up and down the spine like it's supposed to and recirculating. So literally the nourishment to your brain is being cut off. And so like they more and more are finding, like, we always thought the brain was stuck right in the head, but they're more and more finding that the brain is actually all throughout the spinal cord, but the entire nervous system, right? So we're not really starting to think about like the mind and the body being separate things, because we can see that if we're like this, our body changes, but that affects our mental state. So that you can't really separate the two, right? But think about like sometimes when you hear bad news and you might start to do like slump, like you might feel like sad or depressed, and your physical body might change shape. Have you experienced something like that before?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever like monitored what my body does in those instances, but I could see like whenever like we're in like either what we feel like is a hostile situation. Oftentimes people, I think I've heard people do this as like what do you call it? It's like a defense mechanism. People's
Sure.
oddies hunker down.
So what emotion would you be experiencing when you're doing this?
Um I guess it could be any range of like you said, I guess people can feel depressed and they can do this, maybe anxious and they do this. I'm sure that like again, getting upset
Fear.
like when that happened with me not being able to get like my questions answered, and I was like for weeks just like trying to communicate. Again, I probably, because of the hostility that I was feeling, I could have done this, yeah, as like a defense mechanism. Like I'm sure while
Oh, yeah,
writing the emails too, I'm
Shrugging up
already, yeah, I'm basically like, I feel like I'm pushing back to what someone like I'm pushing back to someone else's like statement or trying to like find answers, and so I'm probably like this. Honestly, I'm probably like hunched over
Okay,
in some
so
capacity. I could be.
now we're linking this emotional component to the physical body, right? We can see that experiencing this emotion causes specific responses in terms of like what you actually do in response, but also these physiological effects, right? So now we've created this picture where emotions, body, mind, mind, body, emotions, but then we can go mind, emotions, body, emotions, mind, body, and they all become the same thing, right? So if one is out of balance, you can always work on another one to improve the other two. So that's why I always say, if you're having that response, if you check in on how your body's doing and you want to have a different experience, you can, remember, you set your seat with your tailbone and then you do the breathing.
Yeah. I I wonder because like I that is something to be mindful of when you do have to like face something that is stressing you out, right? Like when you do have to eventually write the email. I imagine it's like extremely hard to like keep like composure and be like okay and be like and then just like type the email. But I guess like if you really got into the mindset of just being able to calm yourself, because like in those moments of like, I don't know if anyone else has like experienced this. I don't know if you've experienced this before. I'm sure it's quite common, but like you have to respond to something and you physically can like you're angry about it, obviously, right? You're upset and you're going to like write this email, respond to this thing, whatever it is, or you're trying to find answers and no one's helping you, right? And you're basically just struggling by yourself. And you have to face that thing in a certain moment, right? I feel like it's like it's not impossible, but it is like that's the most difficult time to like calm yourself down and gain composure.
Yeah. Yeah, so totally. And I typically don't have like expectations for things, and I just know that I'm just going to do the best that I can. And so then that's what I do.
That's how you like handle it. You kind of you don't go in with any sort of expectations, so you don't have that like that response.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm I don't know the specifics of this case, but if based on what I knew going into something, I thought it was a good idea, and then I get new information and it might change my plans, I'm going to see the new information and then act appropriately. And I feel confident in my ability to send an email that's clear about what I'm requesting. Then it should work out.
What if you get told no, though? If someone's just like, no.
Well, I always cite evidence, and I'm always cordial. And
I did too. I was so nice. I
yeah,
was.
yeah.
It was
Dude,
like a
fuck
full
'em, honestly.
paragraph.
You don't need to be nice. You need to say the details and find out who has the real ability to help you. And I can see that like you're finishing out your time at school and like you're hoping to be finished, right? And it's kind of annoying that you might not be leaving there with like the I don't know what to call it, the degrees or whatever that you were hoping to. That's on the line right here because you were trying to do this thing and now they're fucking taking some shit back, supposedly or apparently. But you write the emails, dude, and like who even like you get to change your plans. You get like you can just do something else.
I was only
It's
frustrated
not
too
that
because
big
I
of a
put
deal.
time. It was the idea that I put time and money into it, and now there was like someone who was like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Like they let me do that. They let me go that far, and that was like what really upset me. I guess it was like a it was
Yeah, but it's not that big of a deal, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like
I mean it's
if you zoom out, I mean, dude, I mean, come on, like this is like adult stuff, dude. You're just like, all right, this system has a flaw. This is real life, okay? I don't know what I thought before. Like, I'm upset about this because this is not right. But this is real life, okay? And this kind of stuff happens. And sometimes you have to send more emails than you thought you did, that you thought you'd have to. All right, send the emails.
there was a
Next,
moment where I
next.
really thought that I had wasted my time and money. And I had sent emails to so many people and I was like, and it left me on the line for a week. I guess I guess it was hard to not be upset about it. I guess is what it feels like. Like there was this like it was just this like innate response, you know, like where you just generally feel upset about something because you feel like you've been screwed over.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, you feel like you've been screwed over, but it's your It's all based on a belief system, dude. Have you ever heard of a belief system?
Yeah, but it's hard to like just drop that innate feeling. You know what I mean? Like you have like an emotional response to something.
Yeah, but the emotional response is based on a belief, right? You have this certain framework about how the world exists. You perceive the world through your beliefs, and based on the way you believe the world exists, that is the lens in which you have emotional responses.
Yeah, I that's got to be difficult to just like change overnight though. That's got to be something that you work on for a long time.
Why?
Or the-
That's called a belief that you have about how it works.
Well, I mean, like, I don't think that I could just like snap my fingers and just sit there and immediately be like, this isn't upsetting to me anymore.
No, 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 no. That's not the thing. You wouldn't even look at the thing the same. You change the what you believe, not how you respond, but what you believe deep down to be the truth about what is occurring.
I It makes sense, but like when I look like when I look then at my finances and then I think about the time, like these are such physical things that I've like invested into something, and then I'm like I have trouble like just saying okay. I mean, I could say that I've taken something away from the classes that I have taken to work towards getting an economics minor in that moment. I mean, now it doesn't matter because I'm in the program again. I got the class that I needed. My schedule is heinous next quarter, which I'm still upset about. But I have trouble, like, it's that physical, tangible, bothersome thing that's hard
But it
to
doesn't
let
mean,
go
but the
of.
tangible thing doesn't mean anything outside of the meaning that you give to it. So, like, just imagine like the most genius person you can ever imagine. Okay. The
Okay.
smartest person you've, what's the smartest person in history that you know of?
That's a hard one. I feel like there is no one smartest person. I feel like it's kind of relative. Like there's a lot of
Okay.
like intelligent people throughout history.
Okay. Choose three then, if you can think of so many.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of like there being like the smartest.
Dude, it's
I
just
can say some like stereotypical examples, like maybe like Albert Einstein. I guess like he has to be a smart guy, right? Like
mm-hmm. Okay, so
the-
just imagine Albert Einstein, okay? For this experiment, imagine that you become an observer in your body, okay? Like you can imagine yourself like I'm sure there's crows that fly around outside of your apartment sometimes.
yeah.
Okay, so imagine like these crows um are watching you get home from school and walk in the house, and then your consciousness becomes the consciousness of of one of these crows, okay? And while that's happening, the consciousness of Albert Einstein enters into your physical embodiment, okay? And now you're kind of watching like the chronicles of Jesse's body and physical manifestation with the mental capacity of Albert Einstein, okay? Now imagine that he sees the state of these physical representations that we were talking about financially, and I don't remember the other ones, but imagine that he takes a look at your life. Okay?
I imagine him, it's bad.
No,
I
no, but
imagine he's like it's bad.
he came up with general relativity, dude. He does not give a fuck about this stuff.
I
He
feel like he'd
does
be like
not
it's
give a
bad.
fuck.
It's not good.
Well, then you're not imagining the
Wow.
Albert Einstein that I'm imagining, which is like, dude, he was not thinking about what other people were thinking about. He was thinking beyond anything else that anybody had ever thought of before. Okay. So when he comes into this position and he is in your position, right? And he would like to have any sort of effect on the world, right? He wouldn't be considering these facts, right? Because he's a completely different person with a completely different background and a completely different relationship to money. And all these things change over the course of a person's life. And when we really look at it, Albert Einstein would have no problem becoming Albert Einstein from the position in life that you find yourself in, the position that he finds myself in, or any person, because he was somebody who could think independently, and he was somebody who had a unique perspective on the world.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a socialist too. Maybe he'd be thinking, I gotta get some health. I gotta get some. Maybe he'd support some free schooling. Maybe he'd.
So there's Albert Einstein, but maybe he's not the smartest person you'd ever think of, dude.
I'm just glad I didn't say like
Genius.
Oppenheimer, because imagine if I observed myself like starting to like construct like a bomb, and said, it's like no,
Yeah,
no, no. It's like
but the thought experiment is to prove that anything is possible, that you can do anything, that you can like develop this new passion, and let's say that you just really loved maintaining trains, or if you really loved driving a truck and delivering gravel to places, or you really liked architecture and you really wanted to be building skyscrapers, because you have like this extreme sort of like passion for something, you can overcome all adversity. Like that's just like a function of how the world works. So the mind you will have 10 years from now will not be the one that you have now. And so to recognize that your beliefs do change over time, and that questioning what beliefs are useful to have is like the ultimate way that we can like interface with our own being and experience of life, is because our experiences are the doorways in which we experience life. And so like if we would like to have a different experience of life, like having different beliefs is going to be like a foundational component of like that process of change, intentional change of beliefs.
that makes sense. I I don't know. There's this weird thing too where I feel like I would like to be less affected by those things, and that's like a good thing. But I for some reason I feel like I wouldn't want to not experience them at all, cuz those like emotions are still going to be like, otherwise you wouldn't know what even like true happiness is if you didn't feel some of those emotions sometimes. I feel like I'd like to be less affected, but not completely block it out.
Okay, so what would that look like?
I don't even know. Cause like all I know is that like there's this innate response of me being upset and then me typing the email, right? And as I'm like getting a response
But
to the
okay,
email and
but hold on, dude.
responding,
But hold on.
I'm
This is I get it. I get it. You really know how this goes. You
yeah, it's
know
like an
what the
innate
experience is like.
response.
No,
Like
but you get it. You know how to define it perfectly. And so the idea is you understand that level of thinking. And then you're going to set that aside for a second. Thinking based on this information that you've gotten that you're having these emotional responses, what sort of life do you want to design? Completely setting this to the side. Okay, so now you're saying you got this feedback. You're like, okay, I'm ready to have appropriate emotional responses but perhaps to, things that are more important. Like let's say like you started a business, right? And you started a business actually selling music equipment, and maybe like you got to be around music all the time. Imagine you would be frustrated like if an employee didn't show up for work on time, right? And you would still have the emotional response right there, but you would be running a music store. Okay. So you can still design your life and include this stuff in there. Emotional responses, they're a natural part of human life. But as you said, the severity of the experience can greatly affect how you can function in the world.
Yeah. I don't know what that looks like sometimes though. Like that idea. Because I can say that, like, of course I don't want to be like held hostage, or not held hostage, maybe that's a bad word. It's not like that I'm completely debilitated when I'm upset about these emails. It's just that obviously I guess I'm having a physical, not a I guess it's impossible. Yeah, I guess it is some kind of physical response where you're just feel tense,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel that kind of like yeah, just like an emotion kind of sweeps over you. And maybe to say like I wouldn't want to like I don't think it would be possible, or maybe not impossible. I don't know. It's just that I feel like having no emotional response could be just as negative as having that emotional response. But at the same time, being less affected by it, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. Because it's not like it's like
Well,
ruining or deteriorating my life. I'm just having a moment where I'm reading this email that's upsetting to me, and now I have to respond to it. So now in turn, I'm tense because I'm responding to it. And I could see getting rid of that, but then where's the separation between me still understanding that emotion that I'm upset in the moment, but also not having yeah, not feeling maybe as tense, or maybe not like, yeah.
I think that you're having this experience, and basically like what I'm saying is you're having this experience, you can change your beliefs about what's happening, and you're basically saying like, what if I change my belief to nullify having emotional responses, right? And then it's just like, what, am I, a robot? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about expanding your belief system so that you are more aware of what's happening in the world, so that you're less surprised by things. You expand your comfort zone. And what you might be pondering is like, how might I expand my comfort zone? Right? Because there still are boundaries to your comfort zone, and you are going to have emotional responses, right? But as it gets bigger and bigger, you're going to be more and more able to do what you would like to be doing in this world. So I'm more focused on the comfort zone, and more focused on expanding the beliefs so that you're doing more of like what you're passionate about, and fully accepting that emotional experiences are part of life.
Okay, yeah. I I don't know. I don't know how fast that like occurs. Like I don't know if there's like, is there anything wrong, for instance, with like with me just saying, and not meaning it, but just saying that like that lady who runs that department, like if her computer exploded, I just wouldn't. I that would be fine with me. I mean, I don't mean that, but I'm just saying like, and nothing bad happened to her, but her computer just like, like, and a bunch of slime came out or something.
Yeah, that's
Like, yeah,
okay, dude.
that would be,
That's
yeah, that'd be
that's
fine.
fine. That's okay to think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the stuff that can be integrated into the education system, right? Teaching independent thinking, how that relates to like how we're feeling in our bodies and emotional responses. And ultimately, I do see this incredible opportunity to, you know, develop responsible citizens and allow people to do more what they want to do in the world, man, because that's cool. That's cool to do what you want.
I'd like that. That sounds good to me.
I think it starts from establishing the principles. Why are we here in school? Because the state of California makes us come to school. No. We're here to learn. We're here because education changes people's lives. You learn to write, you learn to read, you can talk to other people, you can collaborate with other people, you can develop relationships with other people. You can make scientific discoveries. You can become an athlete and perform at the highest level against a bunch of other people who love to be an athlete. You can build houses. You can do stuff. Learning, I don't think people get it. You learn stuff and then your life is different. You do different stuff. You change.
I feel like that. I feel like it's that does currently happen, just not at a very effective rate. Because some of those things I feel
But that's
like
the principles,
are
dude. That's the
true.
principles.
I feel like they should be more of the principles. I feel like I feel like school does those things, but I feel like they're not the core principles, which is why they don't all necessarily operate always super
No,
effectively.
we're creating the principles for this opportunity in education. Again, we're not talking about the education system and how it sucks. We're talking about this is what's happening. There's these people, they have babies. The babies get older. While they're developing, they have this incredible ability to soak in new information into their head. In that incredible time, what sort of environment are we providing for individuals? And how are we educating people about that environment so that they understand this process that they're going through? In that education, we're teaching these principles of being a responsible, functional member of society by education.
Yeah, I I more so just wish that like those those tenants were like more closely paid attention to within the school system, because I feel like that it does do that at a really ineffective
Bro,
rate, and
now
it doesn't
you're
really
talking about
focus
the
on.
education. You're talking about the education system again
But
and
I mean,
how it
like,
works now.
but to reinforce that, like, that's what someone's there to do when it doesn't always do that. I feel like both have to be true almost at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah, the school system has to be
yeah,
doing that to, so when people like are told that, they can actually believe it, rather than see something that's different that occurs by the time they graduate from high school or graduate from university, or drop out sometimes if someone is in a bad position or bad area.
yeah. But I will say, only people, if the only thing that changed was people understanding the purpose of education, we would see a lot more people flourishing in educational institutions. There's no doubt about that.
I think so. Yeah. I think to really, like, definitely to reinforce it, though, and make it something that's believed in, it also has to become a reality. The people, like, a tangible reality that people can see
No,
actively
dude.
occurring.
No, because I was just talking about beliefs, right? And so, like, there's people that actively believe that in academic institutions that education is a primal right. It is incredibly transformative. There are people in institutions that believe that right now, and they believe that the institutions are providing that to them. So what would you say to somebody who already believes that?
I mean, it depends. There's people who go in with that belief and later they lose it because
Mm-hmm.
of what they see
And some
through
don't.
the experience, and some
Some
don't.
don't.
But I still think the fact that it's not, like, realistically something tangible, that's
No, but it is.
concerning to me.
It is tangible to them. Dude, they're rational beings. They're in higher education.
Yeah, I think it depends on what subsect of the population you're looking at, though. I think the fact that, like, we see trends where there's certain portions of the population who see a different reality. There's people within subsects that theoretically you think would be succeeding who see it differently, and when you calculate this all together, you look at a very, like, smaller amount of people in what should theoretically be in proportion to, like, the rest of the population who are having this experience. And my question would be, why is such a small proportion in what should be in total? Why is it so small? That's
Why is what so small?
the proportion of the population
That
to
what?
what it really should be. Like, the people who are experiencing it in that way.
I mean,
That's my main question.
how do you know? How do you know who's experiencing it?
I mean, you can first off see where, like, I mean, data charts about impoverished areas, but that's more of, like, a geographical data, and that would.
How do you know what somebody's experience is?
Well, I mean, like, you can look at dropout rates, but I guess, again, maybe that's
not
not their
experience.
view. I still think, though, that it shows that there's, like, a fundamental flaw. Like, I bet if you talk to a lot of different people and you ask them, do you think that school is successfully making you a functioning member of society, teaching you the things that you need to learn, reading, writing, a whole list of different things, and providing opportunity for outlets to become functioning members by doing the things that you want to do. I don't think you're going to get a very good response rate in proportion. And I guess I would ask why that is. But what I truly think is causing that to not register within a lot of people is I think that it's not occurring on the ground. And
I
people aren't
disagree.
seeing that.
I disagree. I think it's an economic factor.
I think so too. I
Right?
think that's
So that has
another.
nothing to do with the institutions. That has something to do with how they gauge the value of education.
Well, that would be a lack of funding too. Like, I mean, like, not enough funding
Right.
going into a school,
Right. I mean,
even an economic.
well, you're just talking about, like, higher education and how, like, how the price has just increased exponentially over
Even
the past
high
10
schools,
years.
though, like public schools, like the taxes that go into some of these schools are, like, so underfunded.
Yeah.
Some of these
Yeah,
schools
yeah,
are
yeah.
in really bad states.
So, like,
So the reality
there are
doesn't
still schools
match.
the reality doesn't match the fact that some people believe that the education system works.
Well, more so that it's just fundamentally flawed because it's not an equal opportunity system, and there's not this idea that, like, you can do whatever you want to do, just go to school and you'll be fine. There's, like,
That's not
other
what I'm saying.
stipulations to that.
I'm not saying that the education works for everybody. I'm just saying there's people that believe that the education system allows people to have this belief that they can learn new things if they have this active ability to seek out this new information. They will find it. They
If they
believe
have the ability.
I
Okay. Yeah.
can find a place to learn more things because I realize that the future exists, and I realize that if I continue to learn new things, I'm going to be better off, and I'm going to be able to do more things and think in new ways.
Okay, so you're saying like, yeah, if you provide them the resources, people will utilize it.
Yeah, and I'm saying
Yeah,
the resources exist. People are just waiting for like a handout. People are waiting, like, the reason that people are freaking out about the school now is because the costs went up, and they're like, shit, like I can no longer idly stand by. I can no longer just go to the school and follow this track, there's this pressure being put on me. But like, look, we're creative beings. Somebody came up with Star Wars, and somebody came up with a rocket ship that can go to the moon, dude. We can do incredible things with our minds, okay? If you really understand what education is, you would go to school, and you would become the best at whatever you cared about the most, and you'd recognize that there's extreme utility in that, and there's like no other questions about it. And I know there's many people that love academic institutions because they recognize the fact that you literally become a different person if you learn something new.
yeah. I I wouldn't disagree with that. I I wish things were different, but I still um I used to love academics when I was getting my associates. I enjoyed like the variety of different things I was learning. I was also studying things that um I think I were probably like I was most passionate about at that period of time. So I think what you study plays a large role in that as well. I Yeah, I don't know. I wish things were different, but I don't disagree. Also, I wish I could become Albert Einstein and make the schools free. That wasn't even a joke. If that could happen, that would be nice.
Yeah?
I'd take the Albert Einstein possession and be a crow. I'd sacrifice on everyone's behalf. He could yeah.
Yeah, dude, you'll the loan debt will get forgiven eventually. Like, there's no other way around it. Um, you know? So I'm not too worried about the loan debt. Um, I'm uh I'm just questioning now. You have Albert Einstein possession, right? You now have this incredible ability to get into the mind as the crow. You can jump back and forth from being and overlapping with the consciousness of Albert Einstein. Pretty cool. So, whenever you're having one of these things, you can always consult Albert Einstein. How do you view this situation?
What if Albert Einstein gets mad? What if
That's
he's
fine.
what if he's like, this woman, she's the worst. I hate her. Look at her. Look at her. She's being snarky to you in the email. And he's like, this is terrible. Let me take over. And he like starts like, it's like, oh no, Albert, we gotta be like, we gotta be nice.
Then you don't have to listen to him. That's the whole thing. It's you have a choice, but it's now you can have a conversation with one of the brilliant minds to ever live.
And I guess that would be me theoretically coming in and calming down Albert at that point. I don't know why I had it to where like Albert Einstein was like this other set part of me that was even more upset at this woman who couldn't even like write a professional email, just started swearing and started like typing out this massive paragraph.
Yeah, it's just all a mental exercise.
I'm glad that I can at least laugh about it now.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that is one thing. I did laugh about it. Like it took me a little while, but I'd say like after a day when I really thought back on it and how there was just one guy who just let me into the class, just some random professor was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. It did make me laugh. It did make me laugh.
Good. Yeah. Well, there's today's I don't know. Dude, I feel like I just like we have these conversations and like it's it's on point, right? It's topical and it's great information.
Yeah.
So like I kind of want to like start posting these like on my Instagram.
Go ahead, yeah.
But I want to find the good segments, you know?
Yeah, good moments to post.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Let's see if there's any
I've
AI.
really been enjoying our past few conversations.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like that
Yeah.
we have I don't know what to call it. I like life advice, but even more than that. Like it's so many varied topics on different things.
Yeah, yeah.
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 I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's yeah, we respect each other and we can have a debate on topics, which is good. And
I
you
feel like that
always-
makes a good podcast.
yeah, and you always bring in the worst examples, like
Yeah. I
which is
try to
great.
keep
I
it a little bit
mean,
light too. Just I'll sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes I make some like extreme analogies. That's partially me, but it's partially like, you know, just keeping it a little bit light too.
Yeah, no, I yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. It's good. I just think it's funny when I'm just trying to make a point, and then you're like, "But what if Albert Einstein got even more mad?"
Yeah, well, I mean, I just imagined if like I don't know how I imagine Albert Einstein in my head. I guess like theoretically, I would view him as like a very like you know what do you call that? Like he's just very all put together figure. But then I realized that I might imagine Albert Einstein to be kind of like very like emotionally like more emotionally sporadic than me. And I just had this moment where I just imagined, I don't know what would happen. And he was like really intelligent, but he like when someone messes with him, he launches.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna see about the AI tool. I'm not sure. I think if I log into the account, I'll be able to download. Right?
Yeah,
I'll be
that's
able
what
to
I
download
used
the
to.
video.
I used to do that for the clips on the old Not Your Cousin's podcast. So that
Nice.
should work. All right, I'll
But
end
yeah,
the.
I mean,
Wait, what's that?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, we'll end the episode here. Did you want to say anything though? Was this for the podcast before we wrap it up?
No.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next episode. There's still
Ladies.
0 people watching. You got duck. I don't think I can do that from here. Oh no. I can't end it. I think I'm ending it. Yes, I ended it.